It's there! Holy moly, this one's going to go big.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. We've got some excellent news today in that some holy grail sound ROMs have turned up for this old Maygay AWP called Omega. Now, this has been emulated for ages. There's been a layout for it for ages. I'm talking like 14 years or more we've had a layout for this, but we have never had the sound ROMs. It's either been mute or running with the wrong sound ROMs, and for those of us who remember playing this back in the day, that was just no way to play it whatsoever. So the sound ROMs for this have just never turned up until today. We've had a couple of false positives over the years where it was thought that the sound ROMs had been found, but they hadn't. They were the wrong ones, including fairly recently, where somebody was positively identified who had the machine, but upon getting a video of the machine running, this is the real physical machine that turned up in Holland of all places, it was running the wrong sound ROMs in the wrong physical machine. However, just today, literally today, they have turned up. Big J over at Desert Island Fruits has given a heads up on it, and he's got a link there over to the MPU Mecha, and over at the MPU Mecha, Stan Marsh there has posted a layout running the correct sound ROMs for this machine. We've got it on that the absolute perfect combination here, 20p £4.80 token ROMs, the original release, or certainly the original stake and price combination that this machine was released on, running the correct sound ROMs for the first time ever. And people have been asking about this since the first version of MFME was released in December 2002, because Omega here, that runs on the M1AB tech that has been emulated since 2002 in the publicly released version of MFME, and people have been asking about this. The program ROMs turned up fairly early in the piece. The earliest layout that I can find for it is this one here by Bugs Bunny and Troutman. Now, this has got a date on it, according to the file metadata of 2007. I had it in my head it was earlier than that, but even if that is correct, 2007, that says that we've had a layout for this for 14 years. But if you put some money in, you'll quickly see, well, let's just put a pound in there. You can tell, by the way, that this is an early sample machine in that it's a mix of synthesized sounds and samples. The sample pack on this machine is actually pretty small, but as soon as you start playing it, and Bugs Bunny and Troutman were upfront about the fact that they just loaded in some different sound ROMs so it wasn't completely mute. You can see there the samples are completely wrong. These are not the Amiga samples. And when you get the nudges, it becomes particularly obvious, because one of the most iconic things about Omega was the nudge sample. This is the sample that everyone remembers from this machine, is the nudge sample, but on this layout here, when we didn't have the correct sound ROMs, it's all wrong. Oh my god, that's not very pleasant, is it? So, yes, it's been available for the longest time. Again, all the samples are wrong. It's playing them it's playing the wrong things at the wrong time. And I could just never bring myself to play this, even though I have very, very clear memories of this machine. I could never bring myself to play it either mute or with the wrong sound ROMs. I've said before that it's very, very important to me that it's a real big part of Fruit Machine emulation for me is having the sounds and the music right. So where they are machines that have got actual ROMs in them, it's having the right ROMs. Or, for example, one of the things that famously wasn't emulated for a little while was the Yamaha synth sound that Barcrest used. Those layouts were mute for a while until Chris had got the emulation sorted for the sound hardware. I could never play those layouts mute, that kind of thing. Now, the machine itself, I remember this one turning up. It was just about, well, I've said before that the £4.80 jackpot era was when I started gambling. And I remember these turning up in Blackpool, and Maygay were very, very popular at the time, their machines. Monopoly, the original green Monopoly, turned up at about the same time of this one, and they were everywhere in Blackpool. Now, we used to go to Blackpool quite a lot because we lived in, he zoomed out, we lived in Manchester, which is not that far away. So there's we lived up in North Manchester, and it was quite a regular trip for us. My dad would take me, my brother, and often a couple of my mates as well. We'd get a car full. There was like 5 of us in the car, and we'd all go out to Blackpool, and just to go to the arcades, basically. We'd go off season as well, not like just like in the summer, off season as well, because some of the big arcades were open kind of all year round. And what we'd do, we'd come into Blackpool here. Let's get fucking Pegman. And we'd park up. My dad would park up on this car, literally just there. He'd park up somewhere which you could park that close to the front, off season in particular. You could get a space there. We'd park up there, kind of 6 or 7 o'clock of an evening. And these were the big boy arcades. There was Coral Island here. This one is called the Golden Mile now. I am sure that the Golden Mile used to be called Mr. B's. I'm sure that used to be Mr. B's. And then just down the way, you've got Funland as well. Fucking hard. Did that one a bit. And it's Funland is still called Funland as well. Why is this going so slow? Go on. You can see there's Funland. And those 3 between them, Coral Island, Mr. B's and Funland, they were like the kind of top tier arcades. They would get all the latest machines. That's your video games, all the latest fruit machines, all the latest pinball. So, when the sit-down Outrun came out, the sit-down Afterburn, all those big marquee cabinets, these places would always get them first. But there were loads of arcades all the way down there and all the way up there. There's the front entrance. I mean, Coral Island is a massive, massive place. It stretches sort of right round. It's that whole site that you can see when I was just on the overhead map. And there was another I don't think that building there used to be an arcade. And that was a pretty posh arcade as well, in that they got all the latest stuff. And I remember when the Terminator 2 pinball came out, and they had one of those when it was brand new, and they had the volume cranked right up, and there was literally a queue of fucking people to get on that pinball. It was very exciting. I know it's probably hard to imagine now, but you imagine going back to the start, because we went to Blackpool even long before I started playing fruit machines. We would do a regular trip to Blackpool, so they get, I remember Space Harrier, 1985, when Space Harrier came out, and Mr. B's, or all of the big arcades had the big sit-down Space Harrier in them, that kind of thing. Used to be very exciting coming to the arcade. They're not kind of like the dare I say, seedy-ish kind of joints that they are now. It was very much kind of top-tier entertainment, and they were exciting places to come to, because at home, you had ZX Spectrums or Commodore 64s, or if you're a bit of a posh fucker, you had an Amiga or an Atari ST, or if you were really rich, you had one of the early kind of semi-gaming capable PCs, which, you wouldn't see much change from like £2,500 from at the time. So coming to the arcade was a very, very exciting experience to see what new stuff they'd got on since the last time you visited. Now, obviously I transitioned from playing the video games and the pinballs to fruit machines. Around 1990, 1991, I would then start to split my time between the videos and the pinballs and the fruit machines, and sometimes I'd just come here and just play the fruit machines. I'd also start coming out here by myself on the train as well, or with a couple of friends on the train. Point of all this is I remember very, very clearly when this turned up, when Omega turned up, and absolute crystal clear memory of it turning up in Coral Island. In fact, I can actually tell you where in fucking Coral Island. If you went up there, in that entrance there was like a kind of big floor space up there, and they had several of these Omegas in a line. They didn't just get one of them, they had like 3 or 4 of them in a line, and they all had some volume to them. And I remember being entranced by the samples on them as well, because it was at the early stage of samples on fruit machines. They were going from the older internally generated sound. Some of them, a lot of fruit machines that were around at this time just had the old bloopy bleepy style sound effects, but Maygay were early they were early doors with putting sample packs on their fruit machines, and Omega was one of the ones that had a proper sample pack on it. Let's just go back to the right thing there. And I remember it being in Coral Island. I remember watching people play it in Coral Island, and I remember playing it in Coral Island myself. I want to say 1991 maybe. It would have been, it's got to have been 1990 or 1991 when this thing came out. And lots of us, it's been asked about. This is the thing. The number of times that this has been asked about over the years, right from 2002 when MFME was first released, the very first release. I've just found a couple of posts here, a couple of threads. That's a thread from the Mecha, that's a thread from Desert Island Fruits. I remember we were talking about this on Fruit Forums back in the day, and it was always the same thing. There were no sound ROMs for it. Pook here back in March 2019. He's got artwork there. I started work on this one a few years ago, but stopped as soon as I realised it was mute. And yeah, it is effectively mute. Yes, you can load the wrong sound ROMs into it, but as you can see there, it sounds appalling when you haven't got the correct sound ROMs. All the wrong samples in all the wrong places. It's been asked about time and time and time again over the years. And then this happened. Amot. Look what's turned up in all places. Holland, the guy who has the machine, wants to blah, blah. A couple of questions there. If he has the ability to dump the sound ROMs, fingers crossed. So we're like, oh, wow. Who would have thought that one of these fucking things would turn up in Holland? And we got a video where Amot got a video. I mean, God knows what that. I was taking the piss here because the video quality is so low. I'm like, what the fuck is he filming this thing on? But horrors of horrors, we were thinking, okay, it's a bit of a stretch to get sound ROMs over from Holland, but maybe we could sort something out. But when you actually watch a video of him playing it, you can't quite. It's very, very low volume here, but I'll boost that as much as I can. But it's completely the wrong sound ROMs. It's a different set of wrong sound ROMs to that one, but it's still the wrong sound ROMs. I agree with what Retro Fruit. I think it's the Monopoly sound ROM. Unfortunately, it seems the sound ROMs are incorrect. It's using a mix of synth and sample. Sample sounds like it is the ROM from Monopoly. I agree with that. It does sound like Monopoly sounds to me. So can you believe it? A fruit machine that's like 30 years old, that we've never had the sound ROMs for. One of them turns up and there's, okay, maybe we can sort something out here to get the sound ROMs dumped and available to everyone to load into the layout. And the actual machine has got the wrong sound ROM in it. However, it's now been posted over at the MPU Mecha. Stan Marsh doesn't say here. It now includes the long lost sound ROMs, courtesy of a very nice contact of mine. Don't know who that is. I mean, if I had to have a guess, I would say it had come from Mr. P's arcade, because Mr. P, and that picture there is taken from Mr. P's arcade. Mr. P was known to have one of these that did have the right sound ROMs in it, and he would rotate it on and off. Sometimes it would be on the floor and sometimes it wouldn't. There has been talk about getting these ROMs dumped. There are posts from 4 years ago about seeing if it would be possible to get the sound ROMs dumped from Mr. P's. So maybe that has finally happened. I cannot say for sure, but whoever the sound ROMs came from, thank you very much for that, and thank you to Stan Marsh for now releasing that for everyone over at the MPU Mecha. You can see it. I mean, these are just ones that I quickly found. I promise you, and if you've been around on Fruit Machine emulation for a while, you will know that I'm telling the truth, that a few of the old guard, the old farts like us, have been asking about this for, I'm literally talking 18, 19 years. We've been asking about the possibility of the sound ROMs for this, and I guess we'd all just thought it's never going to happen. We're just, it's emulated, but it's not complete because we don't have the sound ROMs, and now we do. So I appreciate that is a fucking, I'm putting the time codes in my videos now. So for anyone who doesn't want the waffle, they can just click on the little bit and it'll take you straight to the gameplay. But I just want to put across that this kind of emotional connection that you can have to a fruit machine, to the fact that I remember it so clearly. The very first time I saw it, the very first time I heard it, and I can remember exactly which arcade, and even I could walk to the exact bit of the floor where this line, you put me in Coral Island now in the year 2021, and I could walk to the exact bit on the floor where these fruit machines appeared 30 years ago. So I haven't been to Blackpool for a long time now. I think the last time I went, I was over in Manchester for something. I'm gonna say it was perhaps 6, 7, 8 years ago. Maybe it might have even been a decade ago. And I think I think we were up in the area. I was over with staying with me dad, and I think we were up in the area anyway. And just for old time's sake, we went out to Blackpool, and it had all got a little bit dingy. The arcades were shite. It was all just ticket redemption machines and knackered fruit machines with like half the bulbs gone, and there were a few video games and driving games knocking about. I think I played a couple of them, and they were all fucked. Like nothing worked properly either. You know, it was a far cry from when these places had all the latest gear and it all worked properly. And if there was a problem with one of the games, you could say something to a member of staff and they'd give you the money back. And next time you came out, it had been fixed. It was all a little bit. And those ticket machines were fucking everywhere as well, and kiddie fruit machines, the £5 jackpot fruit machines. It was a little bit depressing, but if you're of my age and you remember coming to Blackpool in the 1980s, certainly the heyday, I think, was probably the kind of 70s and 80s, and I remember coming here an awful lot in the 1980s, and these were real top-tier venues, top-tier places to go to get all your fix of all the latest machines, all the latest games, the stuff that you would read about in the computer magazines of the time. You could come out to Blackpool and play them. I mean, sorry, I've realised I'm going off on a tangent here, but I remember this absolutely crackers thing that Sega made called the G-Loc 360. Worldwide release, early 1991. Yeah, that sounds right to me. And which arcade got that? It was the one just up from Coral Island. It was, I am absolutely sure it was in that building there, and they had one of these G-Loc 360s. £2 ago it was in 1991, but I saw that. I thought, I'm going to have a fucking go at that. So I paid my £2. There's going to be a video of this. Let's find a video of it. There you go, here's one in action. YouTube will provide. I remember this arcade got one of them, and it had to have an attendant with it as well, because it just watched the thing when it gets going, and you'll understand. You had to be properly, there was like a proper shoulder harness that you can see there, the guys held into it. And as the name suggests, G-Loc 360, it could spin around, it could do a complete 360 in any direction. That was the sort of stuff that used to turn up in arcades. That was the kind of thing that you could find in the arcade. And that arcade in Blackpool got one. £2 ago it was to have a go in it, and I paid my £2. It was very expensive, of course, £2 a go, but again, that did very good business. I remember that you had to form an orderly queue to get a go on one of these things. So I'm sorry, that's completely off on a tangent now, but I'm just trying to get across that if you go to, I was kind of slightly shocked and depressed by what Blackpool had become the last time I went out there. What I say, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, something like that. I can't imagine it's got much better since then. But there was a time, certainly for families who maybe couldn't afford to go on a foreign holiday or that kind of thing. Blackpool was where you went to. That was where you had your holiday, and the arcades were a very big part of that, and it was where you would find a slight, not quite as dramatic as the Sega G-Loc 360, but it was where you could find brand new fruit machines showcasing the latest technology, and the sample technology was a new thing on fruit machines. I know it's easy not to think it's particularly exciting in the year 2021. Rewind 31 years ago when fruit machines had just made the kind of bloopy bleepy noises, and yet Maygay, I think BFM were on it early doors as well, where they were actually putting genuinely capable, sort of sound hardware into their machines that could play actual samples. So that is a fucking waffly start even by my standards, but maybe hopefully what's coming across there is my excitement that's coming through about having this thing with the correct sound ROMs running in it. So let's have a little play of it. Now, I don't want to oversell this, because the sound ROM is actually 128 kilobytes in size. So there it is. There is the sound ROM, as you can see, a mere 128k. Obviously, fruit machines have always been built to a cost, and there would have been, at this moment in time, Maygay were to keep the chip count to a minimum, so they went with a mere 128k. So that means two things. First of all, there aren't actually that many samples, and secondly, they're at a fairly low bit rate, so they don't sound amazing. It's not like a super high quality MP3 file, but it is still the correct sound. So they are the correct sound effects there. And then the main thing that we want to do here... Oh, we've got a gamble first. We have got a little gamble, and then we'll get our... Once we win or lose that gamble, we'll get our actual nudge sample. And that is, of course, Small Town Boy. So, yeah, I'm sure if you're of a certain vintage, you will recognise that. Small Town Boy by Bronski Beat. That is the nudge sample, and there's a few other samples in there as well. So let's try and get a win. Let's try and have a gamble. That gives me one nudge, doesn't it? I think, yes. Oh, we've got a gamble. We can afford to lose the gamble there, because mixed bars, by the way, are your hidden features. So yeah, there are two types. There's your single and double bars. Mixed bars awards hidden features, and the more bars you've got, the higher up the feature you get. So we can afford to gamble and lose on that. It doesn't matter because it's cherries anyway. Oh, I'm sorry, you can gamble again. Yes, there's a hidden gamble for 10 nudges. I don't think it'll give us that. We'll have a go. So we'll go for our cherries. Oh, we lost. So you can see they didn't have much to work with. They didn't have much space. They only had 128k to work with. But you see here, that's the synth sound. There is a mix of synth sounds and actual samples on this. Ooh, that'll be straight up to 10. So what we should do here, shall we try and get a hidden... We can get a hidden feature there. So I'm going to deliberately nudge in the hidden features here. See there, it does actually tell you at the top exactly how many nudges you've got. And then it'll award one of these over on the right-hand side. So you can see they didn't have room for an extra sample for that, because you've just got the old synth style. Oh, that was a little bit harsh, wasn't it? We'll hold them there. That would be... I can see myself playing this. Now that the sound ROMs are available, I can see myself playing this one quite a bit. It's not one I've ever been able to bring... Oh, 3 holds. I'm sure 3 holds works on this. Oh, what fantastic sample pack. There's only a few of them, but they put it to very, very good use. Sensational sounding machine, and what I hope is perhaps... Oh, what the fucking... Sorry. Back in again. Well, there'll be nothing there, is there, with just 3? What can we go for a hold after nudges on? So you get a hold after nudges on that. What I hope is coming across is how amazing this would have sounded in a time when fruit machines were just starting to... Oh, we've got it again. when fruit machines were just starting to... Oh, we just auto-collected it. Oh, Degsy can hit that, I'm sure, because he's fucking brilliant at things like this. Hey, well done, Deg. I don't think we got a gamble on it, though. No, it just auto-collects, that's right, yeah. So this was pretty sensational at a time when fruit machines were just coming out of the bloopy bleepy sound era even. To have these turn up in an arcade en masse with the volume turned up, that's the other thing. These things had some volume to them in Coral Island. You could hear them, and it was quite something. Especially someone like me who was really got into fruit machines in a very big way. I thought these things were sensational. And Maygay, I've made so many videos about Maygays from the £4.80 and the £6 era. Maygay were just absolutely on it. They chucked out so many great machines before just losing the plot in the £8 era with all the blocks and all the other shite and the generally shit coding that they had. Ooh, that'll be a hold 'em all. There we are. Oh, we've lost there. So let's see if we can get another hidden feature. I mean, the best thing to do here... Oh, sorry, I didn't realise. I thought it was a hold there, not a nudge. I've got the actual sound turned down fairly low so it doesn't come through on the sort of echoey style effect on the video. Let's just see if we can get a higher tier top feature. I think the best that you would be able to get is going to be 2 doubles and a single, isn't it? Oh, we lost there. It doesn't pay a jackpot very often, this one. It was one of those machines that it seems to be quite cash focused. It does seem... Oh, there we are. That's going to do a... There we are. And you can sometimes your repeat chance, so you could just take 160 plus repeat chance if you wanted to. But, well, we'll gamble that out. Oh, no repeat. So let's just collect that out. Ooh, we haven't got any coin sounds on the... That's something that can be fixed, I'm sure. How many do we need? Oh, no joy. So it's what you probably call, I guess, you would probably call it a mid-tech rather than... I don't think it's... There's no feature board or anything like that. And the hidden features going on is probably your single point of what you might call complexity. What I'm just going to try and do, see if I can get here, is the actual, one of the higher tier hidden features, because there are a few of them in there. And you've got, I think, up near the top, you've got, ooh, well, that was a little bit harsh. I think Win Series is the one right at the top. And then you've got 12 nudges, I think, is the one below that. Ooh, oh, that's a shame. It could have done with winning that gamble there. What's our choices here? Not much. Not entirely sure what it does for on a hold after nudges for mixed bars. You have to forgive me, it is, because I basically never played this in the emulator. I just could not bring myself to play it in the emulator, either mute or with the wrong sound ROMs. There was just something fundamentally wrong about it. So, in essence, I haven't played this machine for 30 years, so we'll find out now. That's a hold after nudges on mixties. Let's see what it does. It does work, so it's giving us choose a win. We have got to choose a win. Well, we know what choose, but let's have a gamble. It is 12 nudges, and then it's Win Series at the top. Oh! Shall we try? Go on. Oh! And again, we've got no sample. This was the sound that... This is like a mix that before Maygay started putting samples on their machines, this is the sound hardware that they had. The music that you can hear now being generated was like their entire sound and music ensemble on their fruit machines. Then the first ones that came along, I think, were Monopoly and Omega, were two of the first that had samples on them. But obviously they didn't have enough room in the ROM to put in unique samples for this, so they just fell back on using the previous iteration of the sound. But this is not bad in series, is it? Well, this is not too bad at all. £7.40. Yeah, we'll take that. That's not too bad. And we got we'll collect that out. So, sensational machine. Well, it's a great machine. It's a playable machine with a 240 repeat, a 480 jackpot, 20p play. There's plenty going on. You're always getting wins. You're always getting features. It's not the most complicated machine in the world, but it is made complete by those sound ROMs, which some of us have been waiting, no exaggeration, we've been waiting 17, 18 years to be able to play this machine complete with samples. I had certainly kind of, I dared to dream, I dared to hope off the back of this thread over at Desert Island Fruits, that was not that long ago actually, that was at the end of last year, and then it turned out that it had the wrong sound ROMs in it. Which is and I thought, well, that maybe it's just one of them things. I thought it's just not going to happen. They're not going to turn up. We will never be able to play Omega with the correct sound ROMs. It's just one of those things. But no, it has come true. This machine is now available to play for absolutely the first time ever, emulated in its complete form on the perfect stake and price combination and with the sound ROMs. So thank you to Big J just for the heads up over at Desert Island Fruits. In fact, let's give him sorry, very rude of me, Big J. I haven't given you a like there. Because I don't routinely check over at the Mecca, I've got to be honest, so it's quite possible I would have missed that. So thanks to Big J for the heads up, and thank you very, very much to Stan Marsh and his, whoever that very nice contact is. Thank you for making these ROMs available for us. It's the kind of little, kind of feel-good FME story that comes around once every so often, where some long-lost, be they program ROMs or sound ROMs or artwork, just something turns up to bring an old machine back to life. And I suspect, by the way, because there is, I mean, Pook had already said in that thread that he had been working on a DX and had binned it when he realised that it was going to be mute. I've seen our incredibly talented layout designers come up with some amazing DXs from, poorer artwork than that. That's a fairly grainy flyer, but I'm sure our resident DX geniuses can come up with something. So hopefully, and I think this machine deserves it. Of all machines, this one deserves a DX now that it's complete with the sound ROM. So hopefully someone will pick that up and we'll have a DX to play as well. But I am more than happy just playing the classic here. The point for me is that it has got the sound. So there you go, I will wrap this one up now. I'm sorry, this has gone on for rather longer than I anticipated, but I suspect, as you can probably tell, I'm really quite excited about this one. So do yourself a favour, grab it from over at the Mecca. Available for you there. Stan Marsh has converted it over. It loads straight into version 20.1 of the emulator. All configured correctly. You will be good to go. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I'll catch up with you next time. But for now, as ever, it is goodbye.